Hi, and welcome to Don't IEP Alone, the only podcast dedicated to helping parents navigate the IEP process. I'm Lisa Leitner. I'm your host for this podcast, and I'm also the owner of adayinourshoes.com, as well as the corresponding Facebook group and Facebook page, which will be your go-to places for IEP assistance. Today, though, I actually don't want to talk about IEPs. I want to talk about 504s because this is making me crazy. One thing that I love about the blog and in particular the Facebook group, because that's where we have the interaction and that's where parents ask their questions and concerns. But I love being able to offer assistance, and I love when you tell me that it helped. But what I don't like is when I see trends because, either a couple people each week will post the same issue, or somebody will post an issue and then 50 people pop on and go, me too. Because I hate seeing negative trends that affect our kids. And so that's why I wanted to talk about 504s today. Because 504s... Okay, first of all, the difference between a 504 and an IEP. I have a full explanation with lots of links to Wright's Law and other sites on my website, adayinourshoes.com, if you want to get into the boring nitty-gritty of what's the difference between a 504 and an IEP. Bottom line is this: 504s do not have goals. They do not have any progress monitoring. The parent protections are much fewer with a 504. There are not necessarily any evaluations that go into a 504. Some teams will do like some schools and states will do an assessment, but it's not a full-on evaluation like with an IEP. They're really two different documents. They get lumped together, but I don't necessarily think that they should be lumped together. And what I'm seeing lately as far as a trend is that a 504 is being used as kind of an IEP lite, or we try a 504 first and see if that helps, and then I'm just hearing all kinds of crazy things, and I'm seeing 504s be really overused and abused. The fact is that 504s are less work for a school district. There's less accountability for the school district. Really, the onus is on the student to make sure that it's implemented and report when it's not being implemented. They're just cheaper for them to provide. It's just less time consuming. There's no requirements that, they don't outline a whole 504 team and who has to meet and how often you have to meet and all that stuff. They're just less. They're just less everything. They're less money. They're less work. They're less everything for a school district. And as school districts get strapped for cash, I find that they're just like throwing these 504s at parents when the child really needs an IEP. And parents are just often so relieved to have anything that they agree to this and agree to try a 504 and see if it works before getting an IEP. And what happens then is, a year, 18 months go by. The rest of your child's peers have moved on to a 4th and 5th grade reading level, and your child is still at a 2nd grade reading level. It just kind of, for the most part, delays the inevitable. And I get it. Lots of kids are well served by 504s. Lots of kids only need a 504. But that doesn't take away the problem that's been happening with them being overused and abused. There is no have to with 504s. So keep that in mind. There's no, if you hear a team say, well, we have to do this with a 504, that's a huge red flag, because there's a lot of, well, we have to try a 504 first, or we have to put them on a 504. We have to do, no, you don't. You don't have to do that. You don't have to try a 504 first. Go with your gut, read your procedural safeguards and, exercise them. If they're refusing to evaluate your child, or you disagree with the evaluations, all that stuff, ask for an independent eval, file for mediation, just push, and go with your gut. And you can do both. You can say, yes, I am willing to accept these accommodations, these 504 accommodations for my child. However, I'm still going to file for mediation because my child needs an independent eval, and I disagree with your report that he doesn't need an IEP. You can do both. It's not either or. And it's not, well, we can't implement services. We can't implement these accommodations no. Again, it's that we have to. Well, we have to do this. No, you don't. You can accept 504 accommodations and be going through IEP evaluations or mediation or due process at the same time. And again, put it back on them. You'll show me where it says that. Show me where it says my child cannot receive 504 accommodations because we're in due process. Show me where it says that he cannot receive these accommodations because he's receiving an IEP eval. Because I guarantee you they're not going to find it written anywhere in IDEA. Yeah, it's and don't even get me started on RTII, which response to intervention. That is being so overused as well, which I'll save that for a different podcast. But if your child is really struggling and accommodations aren't enough, they need special education, they need specialized instruction and direct teaching, don't succumb to the 504, and just accept it. And like I said, you're just delaying the inevitable if your gut is telling you that your child needs otherwise, especially in a lot of cases, parents struggle with dyslexia. This stuff is genetic, and that's fine. You know what? I have lots of friends and cousins and who are successful in what they do, even though they have dyslexia. They've learned, they got what they needed, and they've learned to make the best of it. I don't know where I was going on that tangent. But you need more than accommodations. And parents know. If you have dyslexia and you see your child struggling the same struggles, that a 504 likely isn't going to be enough. So keep pushing. And like I said, I'll rant about RTI stuff another day. But that's all I'll rant for 504s today. You do not need a 504 lite. It's not an IEP lite. Keep pushing. Go with your guts, Mom. Bye.